Today is a special one for us because we're going to be talking about a few players that more draft picks have signed to the Philadelphia Eagles. Sean Stephens, the new cornerback, going into training camp, one of the big standouts from rookie camp, is going to prove himself and where the Eagles are putting him in the competition. And we're going to be going through the Eagles' blitz rate in 2023 to Fangio's blitz rate from last year and more statistics. This might blow your mind, so we're going to get into all of this. Sit back, let's talk about it, and here we go.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. I hope everyone's doing well. So we have a lot to talk about here regarding the Philadelphia Eagles, as usual, and I kind of wanted to go through a few things here. Now, we do have a few more signings for the Philadelphia Eagles where Jalix Hunt, Will Shipley, and Nia Smith signed their contracts finally. So that's done. We haven't seen, obviously, Quinyon Mitchell and Dijon sign their contracts yet. So just give it a little bit of time. We'll get those contracts soon. So it's nice to see that more guys are signing. Now, the first thing I definitely want to talk about here is Sean Stephens signing for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this deal was actually a 3-year deal, which is normal guys going into camp. So it's nice that they locked him in for a few years at least. And God knows if he does well. But I wanted to say that, the roster move in general, Sean Stephens is a Philadelphia Eagle in the training camp. Obviously, they had to release a player. So tight end Noah Togiai, if I'm saying his name right. So they released the tight end there. So they had to do something. But Sean Stephens, okay, we talked about him like a week or two ago. Now, he was a rookie camp, I guess a tryout pretty much, okay? Now, he only played 2 years of college football, I think West Liberty, and I think another really small school. He only played 2 years. He had to take care of his mother for 3 years because she was really sick, so he missed a lot of football. But 16 interceptions in 2 years is absolutely insane. Ball hawk capability, twitchy, so what is the plan for the Philadelphia Eagles with Sean Stephens, and what do they like about him so much, okay? He's just got tight coverage ability because, like I said, he's very rangy in his athleticism and will be in big competition for the nickel spot this year. So nickel is going to have a huge competition. Yes, Cooper DeJean will be in that spot. It was outside corner. He went on Kay Adams and said that he will be starting at the nickel spot, which is perfectly fine because, DeJean will branch out. They will put him at other positions, hopefully safety when the time comes. But with now Sean Stephens, with Tyler Hall, Avonte Maddox, Zach McPherson, even Isaiah Rodgers that could go into the inside as well, I think that position is wide open as of right now. So Sean Stephens tried to transfer, go into the transfer portal. He tried to go to Purdue. He was denied a transfer to Purdue. He was denied a transfer to Penn State. So he went to two small schools, went to Philadelphia Eagles rookie camp as a tryout, and the Eagles liked him that much. So they signed him up. They gave him a contract, and now he will be in training camp with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, he is a small corner, doesn't really have big size. And, the Eagles had their eye on him for a while, and finding out that he had his pro day. He wasn't invited to the combine. He did his pro day, I think, at Michigan State. He ran a 4.3 in the 40. He had 18 reps of 225 on the bench. I don't really know the statistics of everything else. But sure, he's very rangy, and his athleticism is going to bring him a long way if he does really well in camp with the Eagles. So I just love this youth movement in Philadelphia with the secondary and what's coming to the Eagles this offseason, which I think this is going to be the most watched training camp that we've ever been through because we never had this much youth. We had youth last year, but this year is even more, maybe even better at this point. Okay, and we're excited. We're loaded in the secondary. There's a lot of competition going on. Can't wait to see who shines. And obviously the cuts are going to be really tough. So I'm rooting for Sean Stephens. I don't know if he's going to win the job, but nickel is going to be, obviously DeJean moving to another position. Nickel is going to be very interesting. Let's see what guys are moving there and who the backups will be, and we'll see what happens. So for Sean Stephens, 3 years in Philadelphia, but he's got to make it out of camp. So he could be most likely a practice squad player, but like I said, we'll see when the time comes if he shows any ceiling with that big ball hawk capability and want to use his athleticism on the inside and bring him into this competition. So I'm pretty happy about it, and we'll see where it goes. Now, secondly, we have to talk about the Eagles' blitz rate last year. We're going to be talking about Vic Fangio and what he does differently with the elements of his scheme. Going into, obviously, this year with the Philadelphia Eagles as the first-time defensive coordinator. Well, not first time with the Eagles as a defensive coordinator. And I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm pretty pumped about it. But if you want to compare the Eagles to the Dolphins last year, and guys, this might shock a lot of people, but at this point with the Philadelphia Eagles, okay, they had a 25.5% blitz rate. I think this is for the year between Sean Desai, because it was a little bit lower with Sean Desai. I think when Matt Patricia took over, I think he blitzed a little bit more, but it didn't pay off because the defensive line couldn't get any pressure, and it was pretty damn bad. So 17th in the NFL, middle of the pack, worst 11th. I think they ranked they have allowed 69.1% completions, okay, on the blitz, which ranks 30th, 11th worst since 2018, okay? They even, when blitzing, they literally given up 8 yards per pass or more than that, okay, for the league high with Detroit Lions, which is really bad. It's really bad. It just shows you that you're not getting any pressure up front. And when you blitz, you didn't know how to blitz. And every time they did blitz, it never worked. I mean, they didn't, as a unit, you blitz as a unit because when you don't practice it enough and you don't do it enough, there's no stunts, there's no linebackers running downhill, there's nothing going on. And when you did do it, it just didn't work out. I mean, you were only giving up 22 points per game with Sean Desai, which really wasn't that bad. That was probably the only bright spot you had with Sean Desai. Once he was demoted and Matt Patricia came in, that number rose up to 28 plus points, and we definitely seen that. I mean, it just got worse and got worse and got worse. So really compared to it, when you really think about it, I mean, they were averaging, I think quarterbacks are averaging, I think a passer rating of 114.6, which is that's just crazy, dude. I mean, you can't give that up. I mean, that just puts more pressure on your offense. Like, every time this defense goes on the field, you already know, like, they just have to hold up as much as possible. And the offense and you're putting more pressure on the offense to score more points every single game. So when your defensive line's not getting pressure, your linebacker's not going downhill, you don't know how to blitz, your blitz isn't hitting home ever, okay, you're giving up these big chunk passes. And obviously when you have guys dropping back in coverage from 8 to 10 yards, and athletically we're not practicing good enough, and the tackles were shit, no one could tackle, it was everybody. You can't single out one player to this defense last year and what they did because they couldn't get to the football. You never had multiple Eagles helmets to the football. Linebackers were shook, corners were shook, open space, it's easy passes. That's why a lot of teams now in this old scheme, in this Fangio scheme with this off-ball coverage, that a lot of teams have figured this out, because there's a lot of teams that use Fangio's scheme in situational football, but they don't use it like Fangio will use this every single down. Okay, so allowing 114 passer rating, well, no shit, because we saw that last year. And comparable to, not comparable, but at least when you look at Fangio from last year, here's what makes things a lot better. 22.7, the Dolphins had blitz percentage rate, which is a lot lower than what the Eagles had last year, but his defensive line hit home, okay? The defensive line hit home. Number 3 in sack rate at 4.6%, pressure rate. Number 5 in pressure rate, 26.1%, and number 7 quarterback knockdown rate in 10.9%, which I don't take too much out of that because, maybe you do a little bit. But it's even They blitzed even less. Miami's defense blitzed even less last year, less than the Eagles. But your defensive line is hitting home, and you're getting pressure at times. So it's great. So when they brought in an extra rusher on a blitz, okay, it was 22.7, okay, which isn't – so it seems like when it comes to situational football, when you make adjustments, Fangio knows how to make those adjustments in game. That's what the numbers are telling me. So if it's obviously lower, he's blitzing at the right time. So obviously these guys with Miami last year, they were coached the right way in situational football to when they need to use something out of the back pocket, which Fangio did say at his press conference. He's not going to try to scheme his way out of things if things are going bad, but going back to basics, what you learned in the beginning from training camp to the beginning of the season. So I think there's a lot of, there's the Eagles tried to do too much last year. And besides demoting Desai, which made things worse, change it to another coordinator that's trying to implement a new scheme mid-season, which you never, ever, ever, ever do that, was one of the biggest downfalls. And players complained about it. The practices weren't demanding enough. And obviously the soft practices turned to soft play. And mentality, and if you're playing bad, the mentality only stays up high for so long. No sense of urgency. I mean, they fell apart. But with Vic Fangio, it seems like there is a structure. There is something there where, if the Eagles are putting a certain amount of players in the box, or situationally if it's a third down, because I even watched the first game, I think it was the Dolphins and the Chargers last year. I think he blitzed like 7 times that whole game. But those 7 times, he got some sacks out of those few times that he did blitz, okay? And Miami's defensive line had some really good players on it, and that's why I'm hoping this defensive line can hit home. I don't think the Eagles are loading up on the secondary because they want these coverage sacks. At the end of the day, there might be some defenses, some secondaries that can hold up like that for 8-9 seconds on a specific pass, and they can deflect something and cover guys for that long. That's why they need to take advantage of this cornerback position. They got to take advantage of what they have at camp and this youth movement that's coming up in Philadelphia. The secondary is just full of talent, and really the final piece to all this is coaching. I mean, that's really it, because if the coaches fail the players are not going to succeed at what position they're put in during these games. And I think Fangio has a lot of pull, and I've said it a million times. He had a lot of pull in free agency. He had pull in the draft 100% since, he told us that Howie Roseman told, Fangio, hey, give me 7 players that you really like and give me information on these guys, and we'll try to get some of these guys. And at the end of the day, Howie Roseman has the final say on players, but I think not only have you changed the structure of this team, you're going to have hard-nosed practices, more demanding practices, and on top of everything else, Fangio hired his own crew. He hired his own assistant coaches, and the difference is you don't have a bunch of these one-year assistant coaches that are brand new from another team that just got a salary raise to not know anything mentally as a coach. He has hired a lot of over 5, 6, 7, 10 years of experience. I say the word experience because we need more experienced coaches, not from just the coordinators, but at least from the assistant coaches to get these guys prepared and how they practice. Fangio already said during the press conference he's pushing for more practices. He wants more practices, and I'm perfectly fine with that. They can make mini camp a little bit longer than 3 days if they want. Training camp, they could do a couple 2-a-days if they want. He said not every day, but you don't want to drain these guys out in the offseason program, but at the same time, I felt like last offseason, between the soft practices, even in the offseason program, I just felt like they didn't gel together because they barely played together in the offseason. They weren't, since knowing that Sirianni calls all the plays now, they weren't gelled enough with Brian Johnson and really didn't get a feel for what they wanted to do. The Eagles couldn't find their identity on defense. They couldn't find it on offense. It was a complete disaster. So when you see that Fangio's, and just because you could be the highest, you could be the number 1 team that blitzes the most, it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Okay, there's a lot of times. The Giants blitzed over 30% of the time last year. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're overly aggressive. It's just not going to work that way, okay? You're looking at a team that blitzed Fangio's defense last year blitzed a lot less than the Eagles. Okay, especially, but situational football, he's just a better coach, and he's a hard-nosed coach, and he's just structurally, mentally just better in the moment for this team. Okay, that's what I take out of it right now. I think he has the players that he wants. I think he's very excited how he's going to use some of these guys, and I feel like there's a lot of success coming our way. Yes, we need to see what they look like on the field before anything, but I think we have to give this a chance. So I'm sorry for ranting so much, but it's just one of those things where I'm starting to like Vic Fangio a lot, and I don't like the scheme. Okay, I told you guys a million times I don't like the scheme, but it shows you just how unorthodox the Eagles were last year, and just Nick didn't want to take blame for nothing, even if he tried to. And I still, at this point, think that Nick had nothing to do with what they did this offseason. If you're sitting in the war room during the draft, all the way on the left side, out of the camera's angle, it's already showing you, you're just here to be a hands-off guy, and that's it. Leave the control to the coordinators. Let them do their work. Let them get these players to believe and fight and follow into this culture of what we're believed to do this year. So I'm really excited about it. And so if the numbers did help you out a little bit, guys, we have to hit home with this defensive line, because this is what's going to happen. You can play the off ball as much as you possibly want. Okay. But if your defensive line isn't even getting a little significant, just a little bit of pressure to at least cause some type of something. I felt like every time a quarterback escaped from the pocket from a sack or something, it was an automatic completion, because 8 to 10 yards off the line, these guys are open. So Fangio goes into this offseason to get more of those athletically great guys that could come right in. And, you have to be athletically sound in open field. Okay, and make these tackles and make sure that nothing is getting past you for big chunk yards. So if a 5-yard pass is open, you want to keep it to 5 yards and not more than that. You don't want to have a 5-yard pass that turns into a 60-yard run. You know what I mean? You don't want to do that. So and that's what happened last year. Unfortunately, more experienced coaches are going to change that. Vic Fangio is going to change that, and from the numbers, it just, you have a smarter coach in the building. I can believe that 100%. I don't think Vic Fangio is a bad coach. I think he's well respected. I just think that, this scheme playing 24/7 every single game off ball the way he does. If you think the Eagles were off coverage last year, just wait with Vic. It's going to get worse. Depending on Eagle fans and how they think, it's going to get worse when it comes to ends dropping back in coverage, corners back in coverage. You're not going to see much blitzes from Fangio, but in situations he has blitzed, and he's creative with it. And I'm excited to see where it goes. That's all I really have to say about it. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of the situation with Vic Fangio in general. I'm pretty pumped about it, and hopefully you guys are too, because I think there's a lot going on with the Philadelphia Eagles going forward, and this camp should be one of the most exciting camps we've ever been through. So, like the video if you guys haven't. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't. Cover the Eagles every single day. If you guys haven't checked out the Philly Shakedown podcast merch, definitely link description for all the shirts that are available. The new one that we've been pushing out, Big Pimpin', the Big Pimpin' Howie Roseman shirt, and a lot of people do like it. I bought a couple for myself already that comes in black, Kelly green, and white. Mostly all of our merch does come out in that color anyway, but definitely check out the site and purchase something nice for yourself. We all deserve to give ourselves a little present once in a while, so I don't see why not. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you guys on the next one. Shake Squad up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.